All right, we're back. It is COMP305. It's the fall 2016 semester, and it's lesson 4, part 1. So that means it's week 4. The first half, or the first section I did, and then I talked about my assignment, but I think I'm going to talk about my assignment first this time and then do the demo, right? So let's talk about it first. So the assignment 2 is up on, assignment 2 is up on, people are downloading, is up on eCentennial. So let's take a look at assignment 2 for a second. So it's due week 7. Like right now we're sitting at week 4. So you have 3 weeks to do it, right? Assignment 2. Because it is a platformer, okay? Platformers, by and large, are way more difficult to do than a side scroller. Of a couple things, and one of the main things is it's physics, right? So you're making a 2D platformer like a Mario clone or something else. You have to get inspiration from one of the 2D platformers that you see out there. There's tons of them, right? That jumps around from one platform to the other, right? Now the level for the platformer has got to be at least about 5 minutes. That's what I'm going to be looking at. When you make your level the size of your level, round lasting for about 5 minutes. 5 minutes is long. The level is going to be quite large. What I'm going to be doing is this project is worth 10%. The reason why I've done that is because that each project is the same amount, even though this one is more difficult. So if you don't do so good on this project, it's not going to kill you. Amount 10%. Okay. Well, let's take a look and see it. So if you get this one's worth 10%, and the last one was worth 10%, as an example, then what I want to do with this project is keep it as simple as possible, and the format's the same. So, and again, you need a gameplay screen where all the main game occurs, where you have your jumping around, avatar, simple control of enemies. Again, avoid enemies here. You don't care about shooting enemies. They're not going to do anything except for bump into you, right? That's all I care for this one, for this first prototype. Of items, collectibles, basically. Some kind of scoring system. I'm going to talk about scoring today. It can apply almost exactly the same. Player must have a life counter or health status. Effects for collisions. That's it. Okay. But the level, one thing I haven't put in here is the level's got to be about 5 minutes. So the gameplay screen, if I was going to change anything, the gameplay screen out, and I'll put that in for generations. The gameplay screen, gameplay level, approximately, and I'll put it approximately because it may last a little bit longer, 5 minutes. So that's real gameplay, 5 minutes. Why? I told you I want it to be certain specifications. It's going to be too complex to give you specifications. Like there's got to be a ladder. There's got to be some kind of there's got to be some kind of you know, things like a door or whatever. I don't want you to be limited this way. I want you to make your platformer your own, right? Things that I want in this platformer, again, internal documentation, same as the first one. External documentation, a company logo, and blah blah blah. The same kind of external document, some wireframes, and then share your files on GitHub. Some other optional game features like ways to fire at you, a boss monster to avoid, just like this one, and a little bit of a rubric that I'm going to put up later on that are different. Again, the external document's the same. You still need to make a WebGL build. I'm looking for only a WebGL build up on eCentennial, and I'm probably going to make a little bit more of a tutorial around that, how to do that today, right? And a link to your complete project files on GitHub. Include or not include WebGL, but we can do it so that you don't have to include it. Okay, late submissions were 20%. There's going to be a difference. I'm going to check you every single week as we go on. I'm going to do a check and X kind of thing. So next week, wireframe's done for this project, right? So I'm going to go around and I'm going to check you. Now, if you're not attending class, I know some people are watching this remotely and they can't attend, wireframes to the lab. So I'll have a lab space, a Dropbox, and then you'll upload your wireframes to the lab thing. your submission. And when I go around for you guys, looking for just your wireframes. Okay, so we got a bit of a problem with this one because wireframes for like a side scroller, that's one thing. Wireframes for a platformer, that's a totally different thing. So I'm going to bring up my design. Here's fireworks. With fireworks, what I'm going to show you is just a longer wireframe. Now you can break it up into different parts. New screen. Yeah, we'll do square. And we'll modify the canvas, the background color, so that it's white. So let's suppose we're making a wireframe for this one. I'm in here so we can see. So here's my wireframe. Canvas, there we go. So I have some, make sure the background is not black because it keeps giving me black backgrounds. We'll make it so that that is about 4 border. There we go. I'm putting in this thing. So here's my my first platform, and I'm going to make it so that you can see it, so you know what I'm talking about. So my platform 1, and in my platforms, I might have, this is where my character starts. So I'll have a starting place for my character. I may want to put something in here like some kind of thing that shows me where my player's starting off. So maybe I'm going to put my player start right here, right? And again, there's my. You may want to choose the background color to be something else, like, you know, whatever, and maybe some kind of a pointer to this thing that kind of shows off. And this is the kind of annotation I want you to start doing. So, player start. I'll move this around for a second. Move this over. So, player start. So he starts on this platform. Okay, and now where's the next platform? Well, maybe your next platform will be up here. Oops. Be up here, right? So that's the next platform. So it goes through, and what you want to do is make this a lot longer. So let's say maybe 5,000. Now, again, do I have to make it exactly like this? No, but let's say you have a platform here, and the first platform, you have some kind of, you're going to train the player, so there's going to be a training, as you know, a thing where you have to kind of jump over an enemy. So let's make the enemy polygons. And it's simple as how you make them right now. It doesn't have to be very complex at all. This is my enemy, right? And let's say my enemy is a polygon. So we can kind of do the same thing. I'll kind of do another thing here. You can also indicate that the enemy is a patrolling enemy. We can make it so that this next platform is a little bit longer. That the enemy patrol moves in this direction, so back and forth, let's say. And you can make it so they can show these arrows. Like, I mean, again, you can draw this on a napkin if you want to show them. But the enemy patrols back and forth, right? And you can put that instead of enemy, you can call it patrolling enemy. Back and forth, right? That's the first challenge, and so on. And you're going to keep doing this to try and sketch out your level from the side. Again, try and make it so that you figure it's going to take 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes is long. If I go to this one, or sorry, if I pick another platform, probably the easiest thing to do. Pick a platform. Let's say the guy drops down now into this level, and then when he gets to this level, he has to. So maybe we'll make this thing so he'll have a stair climbing exercise like this. And maybe you can make it so that there's just, you know, again, you're just going to draw a perfect artist here. Just, you know, draw as much as you want just to show off that there's going to be stairs. You can do it by eye, right? And maybe he's going to climb up those stairs because you're going to try and train him in the first few platforms. You want to try and train the player for the rest. Climbs up the stairs, and maybe you're going to have a thing that says climb stairs, climbable. You know what those are. And really what you want to do is put in effect items inside the platform that mimic what happens in the real world, right? So obviously you know that stairs can go up and down, right? Now there's some challenges because when the player goes on the stairs, something happens to the player. The player changes shape. When he goes on the stairs, he goes into the stairs, right? Where here he's on the platform. Those are two different things. on the platform. And that's a trick in itself, how to do that. We're going to talk about those things. I have another platform, let's say at the top of the stairs. He kind of climbs up, and he's on a platform like this. He continues, and there's another patrolling enemy, right? So I can kind of do one of those again. Again, I can keep going with this scenario, but maybe instead of a patrolling enemy, this enemy jumps. So he's got to time it, time something. You know, like this one is a jumping enemy, or pit trap, or something like that. Some kind of weird thing. So that instead of the arrows going this way, instead of the arrows going this way, the arrows kind of go up and down. So he doesn't jump that far, but he jumps up and down like this. So what you want to do is you want to go underneath them, or avoid them or whatever without getting hit, because otherwise there's a life, right? You can put also in here, like as we go, but again, this is what you want to do. You want to kind of draft out, look like, from the beginning, and then where your UI is going to sit. How big is the screen? It might be, my first screen might only be this big, right? So I don't see everything. So example would be, I want to have any kind of background, but I do want a thing like this, and let's make this 4, and then you'll see what I'm saying in a second. Instead of grain, we will put in, I like that, but I will put in some kind of line. There it is. So that's my screen, right? So maybe the player only sees this stuff, and the camera is centered around the player. The camera is going to be like this at the beginning. So if that's true, then I can probably grab all this. So Control A. And then, I don't know, move it to the right a little bit. Again, this is what the great thing about programs. So this is the start screen. And we can say something like camera. The camera would follow the player. Otherwise, he's going to go off screen, right? That would be bad. And there's some tricks to how to make him follow the player. Like sometimes you want to make the camera. This is the screen himself. So you want to kind of say this is the viewport. Side. So here we go. This is the viewport, right? And the camera follows the player, but he starts here. You notice this stuff's off screen, right? And what you want to talk about is where he's going to go. Maybe I'll make this a short level for you guys so you have the idea. You want to make it a lot longer, and you could draw it in parts. You can say, here's what part 1 of my drawing continued. Here's part 2 of my wireframe. Right? You also may want to talk about things like the depth plane. Have a depth plane that goes underneath the player like this, right? We'll make this depth plane red. If the player falls off the platform, he dies, right? And we'll just call this thing the depth plane. Invisible, right? So if he hits this part here, he dies, and then he respawns, right? You could make it so that over here is a new spawn point. So when he passes this point here, he respawns here if he falls. So he doesn't have to go to the beginning again, right?
So which one would be more efficient in terms of resources, computing resources? Adding a collider at the bottom, or just using became invisible?
So if he drops to a certain level, you mean like low?
If he drops out of the level, it's going to trigger mono behavior method called became invisible.
Yes, you could. Yeah, you could do that. Both. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do. Like if you want to show the character falling down, he collides something, and you hear he hits the. You need some kind of collider to do that. Or if he drops below a certain level, let's say for example his Y is when he falls below, or because it's going to increase Y, right, as you go down. Increase Y. So if the decrease Y goes down to like minus 1,000 or something like that, I don't know, whatever the level would be, a certain number, then you do all those things. You trigger it. You trigger that the guy would respawn. You hear the sound, all those kind of things, and then he respawns somewhere else. Oh, when he falls below a certain place, like he jumps, but he falls here, there could be an area where between here and here where he makes the sound as he falls, and then when he hits the ground, he respawns, right? So another collider, so two colliders, one the death plane, another one the screaming plane. The screaming plane, he screams for the whole time as he's dying, right? If you want to be fun, you can make the death plane so that it looks like flames too, whatever you want, right? And there's got to be a story behind this, like why is he in this place, right? So you can think about what he's doing. But basically this is, you start with the player start, you have a patrolling enemy, you have some kind of jumping enemy, you have some stairs. You're in the first couple of screens, right? And then he knows what to do now and you continue, right? Now again, it's only one level. It can be very interesting. Like you can make it as interesting or as boring as you want. Like example would be, if I want to make the next level, right? By the way, ramps are way more challenging to make. By level, and I'll change this in a second. I don't know why it's turning up like this, but it's fine. So I want to highlight this whole thing. There we go, and change the type, pixels, and basic. All right, line. There we go. So some kind of ramp. So it goes down here like this, and yeah, see if we can group this together. Group. Better way to do it is to take one of these things and just, yeah, just rotate it. That's it. It's just easier. It looks better. So you have some kind of ramp that goes like this. So maybe you connect it, so it's like something that looks like this on the side. So it goes comes down, and then first you want to jump onto another level, maybe a shorter one like this. It's down near the death plane, but not quite. And now he's got some other things to fight, some other kind of enemy to go to, and so on. And you may want to make it so that it is for the, I don't know why that's 2. Maybe the next part is he's got to climb up, and let's go to the right a little bit. You see that the level continues, right? And like this. Death plane. So death plane would be kind of all the way over here, right? But you could make it so that there's parts of the death plane. Like you could say first spawn point includes the first spawn point. So it spawns you here, right? And then the second death plane over here spawns you over here, right? So closer to the player. There's many things you can do, many tricks you can do for this kind of stuff. Kind of ramp, same idea, but going up. So, and let's say over here, and we're going to rotate it. Kind of a a bigger example, but the thing is, if I don't talk about this in the beginning, then people get screwed up and they don't know what to do at the end. So, okay, we got one enemy. Now we got some kind of rolling thing. So a trigger, you have to avoid, right? So to jump over, so there's some kind of rolling rock. So right, there you go. So you jump down here. When you jump down there, there's a trigger. Again, I'm just making this up, like as I go. But you can think about interesting things to do as well. It doesn't take a lot of thinking. Let's say I make it this one here like this, and we'll make it so that it is really thin. Okay, and we'll make the background red. And we'll put this trigger down here. Get trigger, right? And we'll say something like trap. He's going to land on this trap. He's going to go, oh, boom. He's going to drop it. Or he'll jump there somehow, right? There's ways of doing it to stop him from doing it. And then this ball, the crushing trap will kill him. It'll push him off the platform into the death plane. Again, everyone has different ways of doing this kind of stuff. I like to make it simple, so, and it's just an idea of what you want to make. Okay, this is called, crushing enemy. So different enemies that you're going to fight. The crushing enemy comes out, falls. We'll make a direction of where he's going to fall. So he's going to fall this way. I want to try and do as much as possible. The external document template shows, without me having to look, I can look at the template and go, oh yeah, I see what this guy's doing. I see what he's got. I know what he or she wants to do. Down, hits the player. You can see this happening, and then somehow you can avoid the enemy, and there's going to be another platform up here. Let's finish it off. This platform. So you get to this point, and then let's say, you know, with another platform. There's going to be several platforms like this now. Right to the end, and then there'll be a door that looks like this. And we'll make that green just because, right? Colors are really nice to put into. You don't have to, but even just, that's a level exit, right? Finish level. And then you can see that there'll be other enemies, more patrolling enemies, more different things. You can make it more interesting by putting other kinds of interesting things, but you can see how the level progresses. Obviously, I didn't finish. I could have probably gone over here, but any questions around this? So what I want next week is this for yourself of what your level is going to look like. Okay, nice to haves. Here are nice to haves. It'd be nice to know what your tiles are going to look like. Ground is going to look like, and there's some really cool tiles you can grab. You can download. I'm going to put them up on Open Game Art again. If you go Open Game Art, there's tons of tiles you can find that are here. If you wanted to look at, if you want to search, look, 2D platform of volcano pack. There we go. Right, there we go. There's tiles. Here's an example. So 2D platform of volcanoes, and you can make your 2D platform look like volcanoes, right? Nice. I don't expect you to do any of your own assets, okay? But if you, again, if you want bonus marks, and if you're a gaming student, assets instead of download these. Sometimes, however, people do not have time, so it's okay. It's kind of stuff, it's okay. As long, again, it's open game art means that you can use it free, and you don't have to pay anything, but you want to give feedback and mention the person who created this stuff, because they've spent a lot of time, you know, putting this stuff together, right? So I think it's great. And I know there's other ones too. If I go back, there's the forest pack, right? I get from the same guy. It's pretty cool. So you can combine the two. So you have like a forest area, volcano area. What do you think about using these packs? How can I use these pieces to create my platformer? Any ideas? I put together. So simplest way to do it is to create them in as a sprite sheet, right? I want to drag and drop pieces, right, or my texture onto an actual game object, right? Now there's a couple of this, and in the book they show you the 3D way. We actually create cubes, put the cube on, and then you can create your level by programmatically creating it. And they show you in the book how to programmatically create your level. Array, and then there's a for loop that reads the array, and then it spits out the level the way you make the array, and you decide what it's going to look like. The way I'm talking about it is actually physically with Unity, the Unity editor, which makes sense, right? Why would you programmatically do something when you can make it level, see things working and everything else? So I'm open to doing this way. You can use both 3D tools and 2D stuff to make it go. Is they get a 3D view, and if I was going to show you what I'm talking about in the, I'm going to pull up Unity for a second. So if you go to, here's the book platformer. I want to show you this piece. I didn't have a chance to do this in the first class. They make you, all right, so this is from the book. So book moves around, and then, you know, you can jump, and then you can go to the next level. Right, this is right from the book. 3D, but they're trying to make it look like 2D, right? So you're using a 2D platformer that's really 3D, right? And you get to the edge, right? This isn't 5 minutes, by the way. But the way they did this, from a script perspective, color these things, whatever. That's one. The other thing is, if you wanted to make this more 2D with the main camera, you could change the perspective from perspective to orthographic. Play the game, then it looks really flat, right? So there's no shadows or anything. It just looks like 2D, right? And with a bit, and you can make it more interesting in the background because you can make it look like it's 3D, but really it's not. It's 2D. Easy ways of doing this. It's not impossible to use 2D. I'm not going to be adverse. Oh, don't do it. Don't do 3D objects to make it look like 2D. If it works for you and it produces the right effect, I'm okay. Use 2D objects, right? But you don't have to. You can use the book's example. And the other thing that the book does, just fine, by the way, grammatically, notice that the scene itself is empty. There's nothing in the scene. Here's the scene, right? Fine. But what it does in the scripts, so if I go to the scripts, the game controller script, it shows you a matrix of what the game looks like. This is what the game looks like. So ones, the walls, right? And zeros have nothing. So if it's a 1, it makes the wall exactly in that particular position. And if it's a 0, it doesn't do anything. And you run through the matrix with a for loop, instantiate an object dynamically, and add it into another game object called the parent. Definitely a way to do this. We can build a level, right? I'm not going to be doing it this way. I'm going to be doing it in terms of you draw out your level. You could do parts of it like this if you really wanted to. Okay. Okay. Questions around assignment 2? Again, it's due 3 weeks from now. Yes. Like a sandbox? Yeah. How is it going to last 5 minutes? I'm going to see. Like if it just scrolls or just it looks like a scroller, it's not going to suffice, right? It needs to be a platformer, so you have to jump around somewhere, right? Yeah. Game lasts 5 minutes, right? I'll be okay with it. But there's got to be something. If things fall on top of you, if that's what's going to happen, that's what you're thinking. That can work too. I mean, it won't be as exciting. I mean, some elements of it will be different. That's all I'm saying, right? So, do I have to make it? Do you have to make it scrolling? No. Is that you show physics? You know how to use 2D physics. That's what it's all about. And the game lasts 5 minutes at least each level, right? So no, the answer is yeah. You can do it if you want. I'm not gonna limit you. The thing is, you don't have to do it this way. If you wanted to do a platformer so that you climb, like so you jump from platform to platform and climb up, and the actual screen goes up and down this way. Making a game like this, like lengthwise, you can make the game go up and down. We've seen lots of games like that where you kind of climb up, get to the top, you go to the next level, right? So well, it is, but it's more challenging because if you fall down, you fall all the way down. It's like or maybe you fall to another platform and you start over, more enemies happen or whatever, right? And sometimes also the game world's not closed in that kind of environment. So for example, you have enemies keep coming from the sides, right? They see new enemies that keep spawning from the sides of the level, like kind of coming into the level, which is kind of neat. Lots of creativity. There's lots of stuff to do. And I would look at some classic platformers. Whenever I try to make a game, I always recommend to students to think about something by yourself. It's okay. You don't have to. Look at something like classic platformer, right? Right? And if you look at classic platformer, if I kind of go into images, you can see that there's a lot of examples of different kinds of platformers, right? How they're made. A lot of them are tile-based, where they put the tiles together to make it look like what it looks like. There's levels that have a background with like a castle, there's different things and you can get like platformer packs from the Unity store. Again, please, no scripts. So I'm asking you for don't grab any scripts from anywhere else. Scripts are your own, but you can grab platformer tiles from anywhere you want. The questions around platformer. It's actually more fun. I'll be honest with you. It's more fun to make the platformer, a lot more difficult to make the platformer. To make it work, because there's lots of details, lots and lots of details to make it go. Like, for example, for the first time, we're talking about patrolling enemies, right? How to make the patrolling enemy. How do you know when you're grounded? Mechanic is a big part of it. Like, part of it is jumping and landing, right? And if we only use colliders, one of the challenges that we're going to talk about this next week, starting next week, is have these colliders. That means you can stick to the wall too, right? Because the collider, if you collide, you collide, right? So how do you get around that? How do you stop? It's not just about the collision, but something else, right? And having multiple colliders, many different ways of doing things. We have multiple colliders to do and also other things like line casting. There's many other ways of doing platforming. One more thing is, I highly recommend you look at a platformer example. They do have a platformer that's in here. So if I was going to go to tutorials, right? They have a lot of tutorials in here, right? Like Space Shooter, they had one. Some people have used that one in the past for the game we're doing now for Sentinel 1. But there's also some other topics, basic, older tutorials in here, right? Like, for example, there's some stuff in here for 2D game creation, a bunch of other little tutorials on how to do things like the sprite renderer, the 2D physics, the point effector. There's a bunch of stuff you can learn here. I highly recommend. There's lots of little short tutorials on how to do stuff, and it shows you, of course, like a platformer. If you also, I say Unity 3D platformer tutorial, kind of stuff. And if I look at that, there is a basic platformer game that you can look at, and it tells you how to do this, the physics, and how to use different platforms and so on. So it's an actual video you can watch on how to do this. Now, this is for version 4.6, that you'd have to change some of your scripts to work with version 5, right? But it does exist if you really wanted to go into it and see how this goes. Platformers next week. So that's where we're going to start our new topic. Questions around this assignment number 2, which is due, right? Next week, again, I'll be checking your wireframe, right? So if you don't have it ready, 2% lost, right? Think about what kind of platform are you going to make and how your wireframes are going to look. I think it's an important step to design your game before you make any code or get any tiles. Any other questions? You guys good to go? Okay, I'm going to stop this recording just because I wanted just to talk about the assignment number 2, and then we'll go into finish off the mail pilot build.